Okay, good morning, Earth. This is Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion House, New Mexico, working on oil painting Spring on Pluto. Okay, yesterday I didn't get quite as far as I would like to have. The gray blocking took a little bit longer than anticipated, trying to get those lines nice and crisp, and the fill around her legs and skirt and lower torso was a little bit tricky without fucking it up. So today I'm going to continue with what I was intending to do yesterday, and actually a new idea has occurred. Where is this?
How does it happen that American conservatives...
Alright, I like the portal hole in his head there. That's also the planet. I'm going to play with the dimensionality of that. And also, on this one, I'm going to turn that into a black hole. And then I've got my compass rubber banded here with a handy little brush on the end of it. I'm going to fill this with purple, splatter it with stars, and then fill this black hole with black, of course, and then take my compass and kind of smear the stars around the edges, and as though it were, you know, the illusion or the light being sucked into the black hole, as it shows in the wonderful telescope images of such things. So, here we go.
To establish their loyalty to the government of the corporation, yet that went down here with barely a murmur. Yeah. Yes. Yes, for parents. Well, this is a society based on paranoia. I can remember in the 50s when we were being dinned with the evils of communism, they would tell you, finally they would reach for the most outlandish bummer they could imagine, and they said, you know, in Russia, children are encouraged to report on their parents if they criticize the government. Well, my God, now in America, if children report on their parents and the parents are dragged away to prison, the mainstream straight people stand up and applaud. This is a wonderful example of the nuclear family functioning at its maximum best. Oh no, there are numerous examples of this. I don't know what to say about this. I don't have any. I despair of right-wing, left-wing political solutions. I think everybody is so corrupted by the agenda of capitalism that it's amazing that we have any rust at all left. And you know, thank God for Jefferson. Thank God for the Constitution. Every time I go to England, it just gives me the absolute willies. I mean, these people have no constitution. If you get into some kind of complicated wrangle in England, the old boys club, guys in powdered wigs in locked rooms decide what happens to you and your fate. And you know, England is not exactly Tajikistan. We tend to think of it as a source of democratic ideals. But in fact, in the absence of a written constitution, it's just what the establishment says. The law is what the establishment says it is. Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? I mean, to convince the Heaven Gate people.
Well, first of all, let me say I'm a member in good standing of the ACLU, and they saved my ass in Los Angeles. I don't really see the contradiction. We cannot abandon culture completely. One could. In other words, it's perfectly clear to me that because of psychedelics, if I started eating mushrooms and didn't stop, I would in a day or two have to move up onto the ridge, and I would begin to browse on the local flora, and then in a week or so discard my clothes, and in a year or two my eyebrows would grow down along my face, and I would be like the monk on Cold Mountain. I could do that. You could do that. There is, once you find psychedelics, there's nothing that stands between you and a complete
All right,
checkout. from your
Let's aim the
cultural
camera down here.
heritage.
It's kind of a
The
large
only
surface. I don't want to fling paint all over the room, so I'm going to put it on the
to
floor to splatter.
Is the complete abandonment of everything you've ever known and
I
loved.
can loosen my
And if
tripod.
you can give that up,
Dealy wop
these
here.
monkish people, these fuzzy people, these people
There we
who
go.
hang out with dragons in the clouds, you could become one of them. Most spiritual seekers drive
Alright,
with
just wanna catch a
whatever
glare,
spiritual
but
vehicle
I won't be
they
down there for
rent
very long.
with their foot on the gas pedal. Once you get to psychedelics, you begin asking, where is the brake? Because you have now the power to transform yourself. If the search was for power, you found it. Now, but you see, searching for answers is the position of an ingénu. It's the journey of the fool. What I assume all of you people have to grapple with in different degrees is the fact that by chance or design or good fortune, you have found the answer. Seeking is over with in this room, but what you have to do now is a much more demanding and grown-up thing. You have to face the answer, and you have to take the measure of yourself against the answer. You said you wanted to ascend into the dragon realms. You said you wanted these spiritual realities to become vivid for you. But now there's nothing between you and it except the decision to make it happen. And where do you come down on that? So when I push things like extra environmentalism and critique of culture and all that, I mean it in a very wussed out sort of way. If I really meant it, I wouldn't be here saying it. I'd just let you all figure it out yourself, and I would go off and be a legend, and you could follow me into it if you wanted. I love things about the culture, but I define this loving of things about the culture as a kind of weakness. I'm not proud of the fact that the highest I can get is to teach at excellence. I'm not at all proud of the fact that that seems to be where I would top out. Had I greater courage, I would go further, but I don't. So I'm hoping that you people, my graduate students, as it were, will sacrifice yourselves on the pyre of going further and report back. The thing is a paradox, and you either live with the paradox, I think, and that contains a certain amount of hypocrisy, and hypocrisy was a word we used earlier. Or you become so individuated that from the point of view of everybody else, you're mad. And I've been that, too. And it's very hard to do it and remain in society. I don't think I could have done it. My episodes of madness occurred, thank God, 700 miles up a jungle river in Baboon-Asholia. But had it happened in Manhattan or something like that, it would have quickly set up ripples that would have inextricably complicated and made my life much more difficult.
I didn't mask it. I've got my paper out here, so I just didn't bother. So I'm just going to clean these up a little bit before I get into the black hole idea. We're splattered a little.
I know, it's an interesting quote. It meant something to him completely different than what it must mean to us.
I always kind of refer to that whenever I feel like I'm hypocrite.
Well, I'll tell you a little boring little secret about how I got to be who I am. I grew up in a town in western Colorado where if you read Time magazine, you were suspect of being some kind of left-wing intellectual. This was podunk. And as I grew up there, I became aware of all these extremely strongly expressed cultural values. And most of them were hostile to something. Either Jews were bad, or black people are bad, or people who didn't work were bad, or people who made messy paintings were bad. All of these things were bad. And one day it occurred to me, I will take the position that all these things are good. These things are good. Abstract expressionism, Jews, black people, science, good, 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 good. And everybody said, there's something wrong with this kid. And I didn't understand my own position. I mean, I would look at a Pollock and think, no, it is messy. It may be horseshit, but we must never admit that. We must defend that. We must defend the genius of Pollock unto death because we don't understand it. And by taking that position, slowly I actually did understand some of these things and make them my own. And I discovered that that was the path to wisdom, a total rejection of my own, of the culture I came up with. Well, now, I don't know how that would work if you were born of Jewish parents in New York who were members of the Communist Party and always took you to wonderful art exhibitions and made sure you got to Carnegie. If you rejected all that, you become a jerk like the people around me in that small Colorado town. So this is not a fail-safe prescription. But in my case, by an embracing of everything artificial and antithetical and opposed by and sneered at by the people around me, I made my way to, real depth, real worth, real culture. Things, not that I assimilated these things, but at least I came to live in the light of them. It's a great puzzle. I mean, all of you who have children, and I have two, know that we are alienated intellectually. Broadly speaking, this is what we are. We are alienated intellectuals, and so we bitch about the government and we critique the monetary system and so forth and so on. Well, then you see your children on the brink of reason, and you say, gee, my alienation has brought me alienation. But I can't let the kids grow up to be marked, to be pawns of the market economy and the propaganda machine, people scratching their heads, trying to figure out whether they're Republicans or Democrats. I can't put that on my children. And so then you say, well, okay, then they must join in the alienation. They must be taken out of the culture as we were taken out of the culture. And this is a momentous decision because this act of separating from the culture is unambiguously alienating. And yet it seems to be the only way to find the self. Otherwise, you never contact the self. You contact a commodified cartoon of the self that finds meaning in outboard motors and basketball and all this other crap that's peddled as reality. So our relationship to our culture, I think, is a very uncomfortable one. And of course, psychedelics exacerbate it. And I think, if you have children, that it's one thing to talk alien, but once they get to the place where they're asking to take psilocybin, then, Costa said a wonderful thing, I think it's in the penal colony. He said, you can choose to be free, but it's the last choice you'll ever make. And, That's sort of the dilemma in which we find ourselves. Wouldn't it fulfill all of our personal mythologies if I could now detail a long history of persecution nobly borne by me? But the truth is, they don't give a shit. They are so confident of their control that I think if I appear on their screen at all, they just say, this is some egghead, some spouting character who talks to a bunch of rich people in small rooms, and we don't care. I have a feeling there's something which I call the 5% rule, which is as long as any school of dissent remains below 5% of the population, no money is budgeted to destroy it. You know, it's just, they have learned about noise in the social circuitry, and they just say, these people, they gripe. We are held up as an example of what a free society this is. You say, you think we have a controlled society? You think we tell people what to say? Go down to Esalen and hear what Terence McKenna is saying. We tolerate this. What clearer proof do you need that we are magnanimous, generous, open-hearted, and liberal? We tolerate this kind of thing. I think, of course, that they do not understand the nature of the game, but it's a good thing, because if the game is played on their terms, we lose. What they don't understand is the power of means and the fact that psychedelics are a touchstone of creativity, and creativity can always provide breakouts from any situation, no matter how confined. And also, they have a horrifying fascination with us, because they, as the managers of society, probably know more about its internal contradictions and failings and its shortcomings than we do. I mean, the information we have available to us is the declassified, downloaded, cleaned up stuff. Recently I was in London, and the hotel, the conference was at the ICA, which is down near Buckingham Palace, and so the hotel was on Vincent Square. So it was about a 20-minute walk from Vincent Square down to the ICA, and it's right through Whitehall. It's where all the intelligence agencies and the Ministry of Defense and all this, and we would stay late at the ICA, and walking back at 2 in the morning, the lights in Whitehall are burning at 2 in the morning. The lights at the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Economic Planning are on at 2 in the morning. Why? Because people are sweating blood in those buildings. They are working around the clock to keep the entire system. Look at these rainforest clearing statistics. Look at this oil slick. Look at this. This is costing us money, gentlemen. What about this? And the answer is you can manage some of the futures some of the time. And you can manage all of the futures some of the time, but you can't manage all of the futures all of the time. It keeps breaking loose in most unexpected fashion. The internet is a perfect example. Here was a privileged instrument of the intelligence community and the scientific elite that served it. Ultra high security, totally out of the reach of the common man. And meanwhile, over at Raytheon, they're trying to, this was years ago, they were trying to develop a chip to guide a heat-seeking missile, and for the Navy. And they had certain design specifications which had to be met. And the project had ground on for a couple of years, and they couldn't make this chip meet the specifications. Finally, the project is canceled. The chip is thrown in the trash. And then some engineer digs it out, and he says, you know what we could do with this? We can't get a plane in flight with a missile with this thing. But you know what we can do with this? We could make a little desktop computer with this. And the guy said, why in the hell would we want to do that? We have enormous computers. We have computers the size of a city block. Why would we want to do that? Say, no, you don't understand. Not for us. We have the godlike technology. It's a commercial thing. We can sell it to the marks, and they can word process with it or something. So it came to be. But then they didn't understand that these things, it's a pretty harmless thing. A computer sitting on a desktop with Word running on it. But you sell 20 million of them, and before you realize, my God, they can all be connected together. And then people just plug them in, and an entirely new beast springs into being. A technology so powerful that the head of the CIA 10 years ago didn't have that kind of access to information, that kind of access to real-time imaging, that kind of access to econometric data and that sort of thing. And so it escaped. And so while they were watching while they were keeping us from building nuclear weapons, they seemed to do that rather well. No terrorist has ever set off a thermonuclear device, so far as we know. So they were watching from the ramparts for that, because it was something they could understand. This thing came rushing in the back door, and now the cat is out of the bag. Yeah, stop. I'm sure that that's true. I'm sure that that's true. The fact that the IRS is running on 20-year-old computers.
All right. Well, that was a fun experiment. I'm not sure if it worked exactly as I would like for it to have. I perhaps should have used a wider brush, shorter brush, but it's still kind of cool. All right, hold on. Let me turn that off. So there you have it. Black hole-ish sort of thing. Some stars on purple, a planet, and I got that integrated into this foreground figure a little better. So that's it for the moment, I think. Move on to something else today. Let this set up before we see where it goes from here. Eidolon says hello. Say hello, Eidolon. Say hello, Eidolon the cat. Eidolon the cat. She just stuffed her face. She's not in the mood. Alright, so anyway, thank you for watching Earth That's Adam, Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico. Working on oil painting Spring on Pluto. Have a good day. And your job is to keep the roads cleared of the dead.